All right, this is the PWI podcast. I am your host, PWI senior writer Al Castle, back with the A team. A quick turnaround. Brian Solomon, my co-host. How's it going?
Going all right. Happy to be here.
And contributing writer at PWI, Jason McVeigh. Thanks for coming back this week. We have got WrestleMania to talk about. I think it's going to be largely a one-topic show, biggest show of the year. We'll get into all of it. I'm going to get the plugs out of the way super quickly so we could jump into it. Latest issue of Pro Wrestling Illustrated featuring the now former AEW World Heavyweight Champion. That's going to be, we're going to have to save that conversation for another day. MJF, my interview with MJF, lots more in here. Go over to pwi-online.com, pick it up. Beautiful cover, if nothing else, and check it out. Please subscribe. I'll leave it at that. Eager to talk WrestleMania with you guys. So tempted to like start with like a grade for the show, something like that. But I think it's a tough show to grade because I think the consensus is night two much better than night one. That's basically what I've heard. But y- giving them a good grade because night two was pretty strong, I think kind of lets them off the hook for some bigger systemic problems that were there on both shows. Even if the night two lineup just ended up being better than night one, and I don't know how much of that was just kind of happenstance and how much of that was by design. I mean, you look at the card and the better matches were gonna be on night two, and it could be also that they tweak some things that they didn't get quite right on night two. But I think, again, they didn't become a different company overnight. So the problems I had with WrestleMania night one and the bigger problems I have with WWE were very much there night two and going forward. And we'll talk a lot about those. But and I think part of a review of WrestleMania also has to sort of consider everything leading up to WrestleMania and just sort of where WWE is right now. And we've talked about it a lot here. And there's a lot of bad will with fans, and I think it was reinforced and even pushed to a new level at over WrestleMania quickly in between just the loads of commercials in between matches. A guy who pays to sit at commentary with Michael Cole and Wade Barrett, uh, one out of the three. You guys there?
Yeah,
Briefly
I'm
lost.
here. Yep,
Okay.
I'm here.
Yeah. So it's like monetizing everywhere. And again, you get more of a pass of that when you've got a good product. But this was, you know, all kinds of problems up and down this. I don't want to hog this up too much. Brian, I'll go to you. Overview. I don't know if you want to give it a grade, but do they get a passing grade? How will this WrestleMania be remembered?
I don't know. It's tough to get into the grading thing. I will say this: the first night left me shell shocked in a bad way. The second night did kind of like redeem some things because it was just a better overall show. But like you said, Al, it didn't make up for everything. So I mean, like, oh man, I came away from that first night, and I think a lot of people did too, just really in a state of almost despair, like
Yeah.
thinking, is this what WrestleMania is going to be from now on? That kind of thing. Almost like an existential moment of like, do I still want to be a fan of this? No, like
Yeah.
seriously,
No, you're
that
not
bad,
wrong. Yeah, it
that
was
bad.
kind of stomach turning. Yeah.
Because it just felt like, I'll say things that many people have said. The whole rhythm of the show was off. It felt lifeless. It just felt like they were cramming short matches in between commercial breaks. Like a lot of people said, first of all, the idea of watching commercials at WrestleMania, it's like, and not only that, but a lot. I mean, somebody totaled up the bell to bell match time and the commercial time, and the commercial time was about 20 minutes less. Seriously,
That's insane.
it's true. And so, and it felt like it
And
was
that's
in
just commercials, right? That's not
right,
counting the time spent, looking at celebrities at
right,
ringside
right,
and
doing hand
all, all the
gestures
other
and
stuff.
things,
Yeah.
yeah, and it was like so you've got, and I didn't even get to that main event of night 1, but it's just all those ads, and meanwhile, if you're having friends over, like, I had people there, we're all together, and it's like, people are wandering away because 'cause they're
Yeah.
bored out of their minds. The kids are bouncing off the walls, God bless them, good luck holding their attention through 5-minute commercial breaks. Some of these kids don't even know what a commercial is. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So, like, they're losing interest. It was just such a drag, especially and I think the only reason the second night was more palatable was just because the show itself was better, so you were willing to overlook things, like, I don't know, we can get into the match by match stuff, but I mean, the main event of night 2 was light years beyond, in terms of quality, the main event of night 1 in many different reasons, and I think that kind of gave more of a goodwill feeling, but you come away just feeling dirty, like so
Yeah.
much sponsorship, that drunken rich fool that they had sitting next to them at the table, and by the way, I'm convinced that's why they did not put a mic in front of that man. I think he was what we like to call, poop-faced, shall we say, on the PWI podcast,
Yeah.
and he was not really able to make coherent thoughts, stuff like that. It just makes you come away feeling depressed,
Yeah.
and there was that FTKO chant when Roman Reigns, was there on the post night 2 show, and those weren't even the people that had to watch it on TV. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I
think
know.
about there's a lot of bad will that's building here.
In a weird way, even though from a fan standpoint, I'm glad I got a good show on night 2. I went to a movie theater with my family to see it, and we had a really good time. But, in a weird way, I almost think that the worst thing that could have happened to WWE is that they put on a good show on night 2 because I think they leave thinking, like, sort of justified in their whole presentation and their approach where, because the feedback and a lot of the reaction come Monday morning was positive, among fans, where, I think some good might have been done from just overwhelming negativity come Monday morning. I mean, the kind of thing that drives a boardroom meeting and kind of that come to Jesus moment that maybe we need to reset here. But I think, like, the positive reaction that they got after, Sunday night just kind of, reaffirms, their approach to things.
Well, with all
Yeah,
those ads, I was just gonna say, I mean, filling it with ads like that, it felt more and more like you're just watching Raw or SmackDown in a
yeah,
way, like it's been getting more and more over the years, the more they have all these hours of TV every week and everything, how the PLEs feel less and less special. I came away from WrestleMania thinking, like, the main thing that made this show a bigger deal than any weekly show was just the over the super involved ring entrances and the size of the crowd. Literally, that's it,
yeah.
It just felt like I was just watching a Raw or SmackDown with maybe a better than, a really hot main event on the second night. And that's not a good thing. It's like, this is not it does not feel like the special show that it used to be.
Yeah, yeah. Jason, are you basically on the same page? Did you enjoy it any more or any less than we did?
No, I'm right there with you on it. I think what really drove it home for me was actually Monday Night Raw this week. The show opened with a video package, and I would say the first 30 seconds of the video package highlighting WrestleMania did not show any WWE wrestlers. It was Jelly Roll, it was I Show Speed, it was George Kittle, it was everyone else in the crowd who was there attending. It was literally, look at all the celebrities that we had. I think TKO and WWE got certainly the night 1 at least, WrestleMania that they deserved with the build up to it, because it was the perfect end to the rotten build that most of WrestleMania had. Night 1 was the perfect payoff for that. It was just I could go into it, but Brian's already touched on it there. But just everything, it was almost offensive and just how,
Yes.
in your face it all was. It was almost like, "Oh god, we actually have to put some wrestling in here now because I guess, that's what we do." But if they could have ran 4 or 5 hours of
Yeah.
commercial and entrances and here's George Kittle drinking another beer, and they would have just done that. It was
Yeah.
almost like the wrestling was an inconvenient part that they had to cover.
Can I
Yeah,
talk
and
about the main event, or are we I don't wanna
we'll
hijack.
do that in a second. Real quick, I wanted to touch on because I anticipate, and there already has been a lot of negativity. So a couple of highlights. Um, and I think where WWE is doing some good and deserves credit is the stuff that they can control. It's the wrestling part of it. There is a legitimate youth movement right now that they deserve credit for. You know, like in between Obafemi and
Trick
Trick
Williams.
Trick Williams, and Javon Evans, and that obviously those 3 address another issue that WWE, seriously had, but that's all really good. I mean, for the first time in a long time, you got a lot of guys in their 20s and 30s who are getting real pushes, not, lip service pushes, but are being positioned in meaningful spots and being elevated, and, you're gonna get the types who are gonna talk about DEI and that kind of thing, which is nonsense. Tell me which of those people doesn't deserve the spot that they're in or more. So I think they had a blind spot. I think they're addressing that blind spot, and that's great. All good. Production value always top notch. WrestleMania always looks great. A lot of concern about and they were, I don't know how honest, but they were, acknowledged that the crowds are smaller than a year ago. I don't know that
Uh-huh.
you would have even known it watching it because they looked great, they were packed, so, you're
Well,
gonna always get a first-rate show from a production standpoint. Those things, all good. Yeah, Brian,
I was
anyone
just
add
gonna
to that?
say about the crowds, I know, I was reading somewhere that Taylor Swift had put, like, 68,000 people in there, recently. So, I mean, I don't know what the stage setup is and all that stuff, but, that means potentially what, like, 12,000, 13,000 empty seats possibly?
I
That,
was surprised that I think they put out a number yesterday or today that was I forget what it was, but it was an acknowledgement that they would have been about 18,000 shy of last year. That's a lot, and
yeah.
good on them in covering it up. I wouldn't have noticed 18,000 empty seats over 2 nights, but
And
it is.
guaranteed if the prices were reasonable, it would have been an easy sellout,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Easy,
for
like
sure.
every other year.
What I wonder is, and I imagine these numbers will come out, too, did they make more money off the gate than they did with last year, even with fewer fans. In which case, again, it's sort of like just sort of reinforces their approach.
I saw one thing which you have to translate sort of the WWE speak. There was something that came out today where they called it from the company it came where they said it was one of the most profitable shows they've ever done, which tells me that it was less than last year
Yes, because
because
they would have been bragging about it.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
if yeah, they're the first to point to any record. So let's talk about the main event. We'll start with night one. Let me share some thoughts on it. I it's interesting because, like, if somebody walked into the room and missed the first few minutes of the match and then left before the end of the match and just kinda caught, like, that middle 15 minutes, you'd think, "This is a hell of a match," right? I mean, the 2 guys who could really go, having the match you would expect on a big stage. But that beginning part and that end part were so bad. I think to make this a terrible match. I mean, it's that disappointing. And at the end of the day, like wrestling's always been about the main events. This was the problem that WCW had for all those years is they'd have these really strong undercards and then they would crap the bed in the main event. So that's what people remember. And this was just so leave a bad taste in your mouth. Kind of, I don't want to say the worst case scenario, but on the low end of low expectations, in that you've had for weeks now fans rejecting Pat McAfee's involvement, and WWE kind of trying to have it both ways, acknowledging that fans don't like this, but also continuing to shove it down your throat, and so they think that they're sort of like mitigating the harm at the outset by writing Pat off at the very beginning of the match, which to me is just like, well, then why is he in it? I mean, if you're in such a hurry to sort of appease fans and say, "Oh, don't worry about it. He's not going to be in it," then why even have him part of it? And then only for him to come back out at the end in the stupidest way possible. And there's 100 other issues as far as, why is he? Where did he get the ref shirt? If he was fine to run in at the end of the match, why didn't he
Where
just
did he
kind
get
of
the ref
come
shirt?
back? He obviously was fine. So why did he stay backstage? You'd think he would have like been back there earlier. And then there's like the small issue of Charles Robinson basically no selling an RKO. He gets hit with an RKO, and a minute later he's fine. I mean, refs that are grazed by like the errant shoulder and are knocked out at ringside for 10 minutes. He gets RKO'd and he's up in time to count the finish.
He has little
Second.
Nate. I
And
mean,
and McAfee does a slow count. He does the Nick Patrick, and he slow counts. I mean, this was just a disaster in every way. And then again, I think they try to kind of appease fans by having Cody get the win. Uh, just awful, awful, awful. And I feel terrible for Cody because this is now 2 in a row. And if you wanna look back to Mania 39, where everybody expected he was gonna win and he didn't, it is 3 out of 4 WrestleManias
they just
where
keep
fans
screwing
have
with
gone home
yeah.
disappointed in a Cody match.
They keep screwing with his main events just year after year after year. It's amazing. I still, to this day, I'll say it to my grave, he should have won the title in that first Roman Reigns main event. I feel more strongly about that than ever. But, the McAfee at least, you reminded me when you said that McAfee gave kind of a slow count. At least that explains why Randy Orton might have been pissed
I
because
think you're giving him too much credit
no, I
there,
am,
Marty.
because in
Yeah.
the moment, I was thinking, like, why is he even mad at him? Like, what did he didn't even cost him the match. What did he actually do? And again, I'm watching it with, a mixed crowd, adults, kids. My son had his friend over there too, and my son's a big Cody Rhodes fan. And you had people that were confused, and these are not lunatics like us, these are normal people, and they were confused about how they're even supposed to feel about these 2 guys, like, what does this mean? Like, while we're watching it, I turned to my friend because I started going, "I think they're trying to do a double switch here, like a Bret Hart, Steve Austin thing, where Cody's getting a little heelish, Randy is getting cheered, Pat McAfee's out of the equation." I'm thinking, and especially when Pat stunned McAfee, I'm thinking, are they doing a switch now? Is Cody heel? But as it turned out, is they don't seem to have any idea what they were doing. And it just seemed like, if I'm thinking about it from a creative point of view, what in the world do they want people to take away from that match about those 2 characters, about the storyline? Like, what is the takeaway? It just seemed like just a giant mess.
Yeah, I mean, Randy's getting cheered, but is supposed to be the heel, but he's selling a back injury most of the match, so he's kind of
Right.
playing the
He's
baby
working
face,
it like a
and
face.
Cody's kind of working as a heel, but then they have Pat help him, but then he turns on Pat, which is at a babyface turn, and then he punt kicks Cody. It's just a disaster. I mean, really just awful,
It's
awful
not
booking.
coherent storytelling,
No,
basically.
no.
It's not.
No,
Jason,
none
your
of it.
thoughts on this?
Yeah, none of it was, and I can't believe the 2 of you have talked about this match so long and haven't even mentioned Jelly Roll's involvement in it, which was
Oh,
the
yeah,
key thing, surely. That elbow through the table, which we already
which looked like
saw
crap.
earlier in the night as well, which
Yeah.
My older son was laughing his ass off when that happened. I have a 22-year-old son who's been, he's watched wrestling with me since he was little. He just laughed at that, at Jelly Roll going through the table with Logan. It was just like a comedy spot to him.
It didn't look good, God bless Jelly Roll, but yeah, at the end of the day, it's like, leave this to the professionals. It was exactly what we were talking about. It was just kind of, self-indulgent, gaga over celebrities that they would include him. Just embarrassingly bad.
it's just whenever McAfee came down with the neck brace on and the sunglasses on and the referee shirt, I actually laughed because I just thought this is ridiculous. It was so hard to keep up with. Cody wrestled most of the match as the bad guy in the match. Everything he did, his
Yeah,
mannerisms, his moves,
yeah.
everything. Orton kind of switched back and forward between the 2. Then he did the most babyface thing by taking out McAfee. It was just impossible to keep track of what was happening, who you're meant to be cheering for. It had none of the subtleties or the grace that the Bret Hart Steve Austin thing did, if that's what they were doing, which I don't think it was what they
No,
were
I don't
doing.
think
I
it
don't think
was.
so either.
They
No.
were just
But I don't
absolute.
know.
I mean, in
Yeah.
the moment, I thought maybe it was
Yeah. Yeah,
because
yeah.
I felt like they're trying to build sympathy for Orton because you don't have a heel selling a back injury and trying
Yeah.
to come back from the injury, and then Cody is kinda ruthlessly going after it, and so that was my assumption, but nah, it's we just don't know what we're doing. That's all.
And Cody, very much had, like, a babyface entrance, right, and I think in some ways they might have anticipated him being booed more than he was, and he was neither. I mean, there were some boos, but it wasn't overwhelming. It was kind of the worst of all reactions, right? Because it was, neither side. I laughed, talking about like how embarrassing this stuff was when they broke out the decibel meter for Randy when he came in, and it's just like, oh man, the fans are gonna go crazy for this one, and he was just sort of like, tepid, like
In the middle.
orange, just awful. But then Cody comes out. I mean, not to jump ahead too much, but Cody the next night on Raw, I did start to wonder, like, is this a heel turn? And part of it is, I don't know that he can be rehabilitated as a babyface. I think they've done tremendous damage to Cody. I think he just reeks of loser.
He called
Charlie
himself a
Brown.
loser the
Yeah,
next night
I
on
mean,
Raw.
he's Charlie Brown. He just looks like such a loser out there. What it reminds me of is Seth Rollins' first babyface world title run when he had that program with the Fiend, and there was no coming back because he was so damaged by it that it was like we got to pull the plug on this. And maybe it's overstating it. I sort of feel like Cody needs to go away for a while.
I think that, and sounds paranoid and conspiratorial, but this comes from spending some
Okay.
time on the inside and being in some of these writers' rooms and things. Now, all these years later, with Cody being back for what is it, like 4 years now or something? It feels to me like they have not and never will forgive him for AEW. And I feel like what they're doing is they're not gonna bury him because they realize he has a lot of fan support and he's a great star and they could do a lot with him. But by the same token, it's like they're gonna try to just sort of make him look bad. I know that sounds, like I said, paranoid, but it's like they're not gonna take him off TV. They're not gonna put him down the card. They're gonna keep him in those top spots, but just make him look foolish all the time, almost as a way of toying with him. I'm really starting to think that there might be something to that in a way, like, it's just like a big joke, essentially.
I don't wanna be too conspiratorial because he means too much to the company and to the business for I think for them to be that spiteful. I think it's more taking him for granted. I think it's more just sort of thinking, "Nah, he'll be fine," that kind of thing, and not doing the sort of maintenance that you need to protect a guy in that position, and, I you know, and Cody sort of, like, touched on this in some interviews. In a weird way, it's a compliment that he gets put in these spots because, um, they are the ones with the most attention, and so that's where they're gonna think like, "Well, let's insert a Pat McAfee, let's insert a Dwayne Johnson, let's insert a Travis Scott because this is, like, the real main event." The flip side of that is that, like, with all those moves, you're really hurting the guy. Yeah. Jason, your thoughts on kind of how Cody goes forward from here?
I don't know, like, I thought it was interesting in Raw when he came out with that horrible looking eye injury that he got, like, on top of everything else, as bad as the match would, Cody actually came out of it injured as well, pretty
No.
badly, so, like, even that's just really bad on top. The whole thing with him and Punk then on Raw, and sort of teasing that and setting that up for down the line, I don't know what way it seems like a SummerSlam kinda match to me, if that's the way they wanna go with that one. I think the best thing in the world for Cody Rhodes right now would be to just wrestle. Just have regular matches with regular guys, ideally people who are really disliked, and just try to ride this through the next few months and try to rehabilitate him as much as you can to try to get him back to where you want him to be. But The whole build up to this and WrestleMania itself did nothing to help him. It only hindered kind of whatever progress he had made to this point. So I hope they can turn it around because he tries so hard. You know, he works really hard. He's almost a victim of his own success with it because I think that's why they say, "Yeah, we'll insert a Pat McAfee or a
Yeah.
Travis Scott or whoever, and it'll be fine because Cody will come out of it shining and stuff." He usually does, but it's getting harder and harder to do. So I hope he turns it around, and I hope he comes out of this okay.
Is there any hope that Cody or Triple H or whoever kinda put their foot down here with TKO people and say, "Back the F off." You know, you're ruining this, you know, because I feel like coming out of Mania, that's what needs to happen is they really need to sort of say, like, "Guys, we need some space."
I think they're gonna have to come to that realization themselves, which if they're smart, they will. Because somebody like a Triple H, they don't have any leverage really to do that. Because if TKO didn't agree with him, they're just going to replace him. You know what I mean? And that could very easily happen. I don't think people realize how easily that could happen. And if I'm being brutally honest, probably eventually will. But I think the only way it stops in the short term is they themselves have to go, okay, yeah, this isn't working. We gotta change direction here.
Yeah, I think most likely it kinda
We gotta
stays
leave
what
them
it is,
alone.
which is you appease them somewhat, and who knows, maybe were it not for the Triple H's of the world, the meddling would be even worse, you know?
That would be my fear.
Maybe this is Triple H mitigating all their meddling.
I think I would be concerned to know without Triple H there, I think he probably acts as a buffer
Yeah.
between what TKO want and what we get on screen, and it frightens me to think what might happen. Like, before TKO or Endeavor, as they were, owned the UFC, they were an entertainment company. They worked in the entertainment business,
Yeah, they were,
celebrity
the William
actor.
Morris, right? I think they're the
Right,
William
Yeah,
yeah.
Morris
Ari
guy.
Emanuel is McAfee's agent, right?
So
Yes.
it's like
True.
their history and their business is built on celebrities and working with celebrities. It doesn't give me great hope that this is going to stop. I think on as I mentioned earlier, the first 30 seconds of Raw kind of applied. This is what we care about the most here. Oh, and by the way, some wrestlers did some things as well, and this is what happened with those.
I do wonder if and again, I think more than anything, it's happenstance and it's the how the 2 cards were laid out, but I do wonder if the fact that WrestleMania Night 2 was so much better was maybe Triple H or somebody saying, "You guys need to back off and let us do this," and that's why we got such a better night 2. Let's talk about night 2 and the main event of night 2. You know, you talk about yin and yang. I mean, from the sort of worst presentation of WWE to the absolute best. I mean, this is being talked about as one of the great WrestleMania matches of all time, and I don't think that's I mean, that is a match of the
Yes.
year. It is a five-star match. It was a beautiful match. It's the kind of match that you show people who aren't wrestling fans. And to me, it's you know, not to glaze them too much as the kids say these days, but it's everything wrestling should be, which is to say you didn't see a bunch of needless flips or dangerous spots or anything like that. What it was like a really compelling story told from beginning to end. It was like 35 minutes. I never was bored, throughout it. What I found myself doing, about half hour in was being nervous that they were going to ruin it. Like
Yes.
I'm just sort of like, oh, please, nobody
Right.
run in.
Yeah, the whole
Just leave these
bloodline
two alone.
comes out. Right.
Yeah, and they didn't. They just gave
Yeah.
us a finish, and I mean, a terrific match. The bet. I mean, is it too much to call it the best WWE match in years? And even compared to some very good matches, I think this is WWE at its absolute highest.
Yeah, I think it's one of the best WrestleMania main events of all time, and it's definitely the best WrestleMania main event in a very long time, in years. I wouldn't even venture to guess, when the last one. I mean, I know, my all-time favorite is Austin and Rock in the Astrodome, but I don't know if you necessarily have to go back that far,
And
but
that finish was kind of
right, the finish was
yeah,
terrible. No, you're
yeah.
right. But this time, I do get the sense that and how weird coming off that first night, which was a mess, and the main event was so disappointing. Now the next night, you get one of the best main events of all time. Um, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it was kind of a reaction, and knowing what we know about Punk too, and how much this genuinely means to him, and how much of kind of like an old school wrestling purist he is, you could almost imagine him going like, "We are not effing doing any of that. Like, this is
Yeah.
my moment." Whether they listen to him or not, this is my moment. This is what I've been waiting for. Let us tear the house down. Please don't do that. And I think if there was any chance that maybe there was a different thing planned, like maybe there was a bloodline reunion planned, which they wound up doing the next night, that maybe they were given pause by the reaction to night one. And maybe that made them go, "Okay, we're gonna give you guys a chance. We're gonna listen to you, and we're gonna give them like a good old old-fashioned main event here." We've been talking about it for a few years now, how it's become the norm to have these insanely overbooked WrestleMania main events now. It was kinda cute in the beginning, The Undertaker shows up and The Rock and the thing, and now it's just become like, "Can we just have a really good main event of
But not
WrestleMania?"
everybody could do that either, right? I
Right,
mean, I think it really
right.
speaks to having 2 of your best guys out there. Not everybody could deliver the match that these guys could.
But Rhodes and Orton could've. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I maybe not as good as this, but a very, very good main event if they had had the chance. I it felt like it was almost like like watching a fight in a Rocky movie in a way. You had, like,
Mhm.
even to the degree where he lost in the end, this kind of underdog, older guy put every ounce of effort that he had into it and came up just that short in the end. It really was phenomenal, you know?
And from a storytelling standpoint, I mean, this is one thing I really loved about the match, and we talked here about how we weren't crazy about sort of the story that, like, well, you're old and you're whatever, overpaid or whatever, just kind of but it played into the storyline, right, where in the end, um, Punk was a little too old to keep up, right? I mean, he
Yes.
couldn't get him up for that last GTS, and Reigns is as good as the hype. I mean, that was kind of the story. He's like, this guy is next level. He really is special. And I loved it. I saw people complain about the spot where he hits
Yes.
him with the stairs outside the ring, and why was
I'm
that a
one of those
DQ?
people.
I liked that I what I liked in terms of realism was I could believe, and I think the announcers did a good job of this. You could believe that a ref would give him a little leeway. It is the main event of WrestleMania. Am I really going to disqualify you for something like this and send everybody home, upset, or am I going to give you a little leeway? And is Roman smart enough to know that? And so he's going to take that extra inch because he knows you're not going to disqualify me for this. So I just thought it was brilliant. Jason,
Well, I
here we
was
go.
a little even in the moment. Oh, I'm sorry, Jason, please talk.
No, no, please, Brian, go ahead, go ahead.
Even in the moment, though, I do remember, and I was watching it with other people, I remember, like, we were in the moment even going, "Why is he not being disqualified?" when we were watching that, and I almost it took me out of it just a little bit. The other part of that aspect was, Roman is hanging in the tree of woe, so to speak, dangling. I'm sorry, Punk is. Roman is just hauling off and wailing on the guy who's helpless. Isn't that where the referee is supposed to be trying to get him out at that point, instead of just kind of studiously watching while Roman Reigns is, like, teeing off on him helplessly as he hangs upside down? That was a little weird. I almost felt like the solution to that because, Al, I get what you say about, okay, and Michael Cole covered for it, how, this is a big match. We don't want it to end on a DQ unless it's totally necessary. But the solution to that is the referee doesn't have to see it. Just find a
Sure.
pretense where he's doing something else or he's whatever, he misses it. Then you're totally good, you know what I mean? But it makes the refs just standing there like, "Hmm, okay, yes, that's good. Okay, let's keep going." That's what made it look dumb. But again, that is to me a minor quibble compared to how they've been messing with these main events. It was a great match.
Yeah.
I think even after the bit where they went out of the ring and did the whole thing with the steps, I thought the pair of them did a very good job of getting the whole thing back on track again, and the focus very much returned to what's happening in the ring. and the closing stretches of that match, like it was two guys who were trying to fight off exhaustion and who's actually got the most fuel left in the tank to get to the end and stuff. It was a story that could have been told in wrestling 20 years ago, 40 years ago, 60 years ago. It's basic, simple storyline. It was perfect. I loved it. I think it is an all-time WrestleMania match, and it saved the weekend for me personally. I thought maybe it was because it was in such contrast to the night one main event that maybe it was like, oh my god, this is the best thing ever. But it saved the weekend for me.
What it reminds me, of about a lot, and it's come up already in this conversation, and there's some good and bad with this, is Steve Austin versus Bret Hart at WrestleMania 13, where, no frills, right? I mean, not like super crazy high spots, but just intensity, hate, and the other, similarity is that neither of these were booked out that far in the future. Remember, Austin and Bret came together because I guess Brett and Shawn fell apart, which was the original plan. So, the Bret Austin feud had already pretty much wrapped up when they revisited at Mania. The other thing about that a similarity is I think it saved what would have been an all-time bad WrestleMania, and there's already a bad WrestleMania, WrestleMania 13. But
Yeah.
thankfully for WWE, I think when people think back on WrestleMania 13, they think, "Oh, that's the one that had that all-time great match." And not that, Rocky Maivia versus the Sultan or whatever else was on that show.
Undertaker and Sid,
Horrible, yeah.
AKA the forgotten WrestleMania main event. Yeah.
Yeah, at least this one was the main event. At least it was the last thing that people saw before the show went off the air. But it is to say that, like, this match v is it too much to say it saved WrestleMania? Maybe not, but, I mean, there's other really good stuff on night 2, but, WWE will be lucky if all people remember, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, is Roman versus Punk. Did the right person win? Any issues with the booking decision here?
I have to say I was pulling for Punk in the end. I really was, but I got so caught up in it that I actually was. I very rarely root for anyone in a match. I generally don't care who wins most of the time. But I would find myself rooting for Punk in it. By the same token, I didn't care in the end that Reigns won. I thought just the match was so good, and it'll freshen things up as well by having Reigns win, so no problems with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the right person won. I'm the same way. I would have loved to see Punk win. I'm a big fan, but that was the right call.
And it sounds like Roman's gonna be around for a while. That's one thing we've talked about, and he had that interview in the post show where he said, "You'll be seeing me a lot this summer," or whatever it was. So, it
Right.
it sounds like at least for the summer, he's gonna be working pretty regularly, which is great. And yeah, I think it's a relatively fresh act because we haven't seen that much of him, and he really is great. I mean, Roman is just so good. Real quick on all uh, the seasoning, all the other stuff. Punk's entrance, fantastic. I mean, to me, the best of the weekend. I love the video package, him sitting on top of the stadium. The kind of look back at his career, the jacket with the names on it, just as cool, as classy as anything. I really liked Romans too, even though by and large, and you mentioned it, Brian, like it's WrestleMania has become so much about these entrances, and I think the majority of them I thought were kind of obnoxious and derivative. And do I need to see a wrestler come out with a bunch of children dressed as that wrestler for the millionth time, and or the rock band playing their entrance music, and you come out and you rock out with the band before you get to the ring. So all that stuff, I was just like, ugh, these really work. I wish there were fewer of the other ones so that these would have felt more special. But I just loved everything, all the accoutrement surrounding this match. I just thought everything worked perfectly.
I think that's the key with those entrances is they really shouldn't be for everybody. I mean, they should keep it special, maybe even just for the main events. I mean, I applaud Gunther for just coming out like every
Yeah.
other match because that fits with his character, you know? You could just imagine him saying like, "I'm not doing any of that crap," that kind of thing. But it does maybe it's maybe it's us showing our age, I don't know, where there's some of them where you're just like, "Oh, give me a freaking break." Like the Liv Morgan choreographed dance routine, I'm sorry. I mean, maybe I'm in the minority. I was just like, "What are we doing here? What is this?" You know? And then I almost thought I turned to my friend, I said, "You know what the greatest thing ever would be?" Because they did this whole thing with the dancers and the choreography, and she's singing. It would be amazing if she just lost in, like, 30 seconds after doing all that and just got beat. That would be the way to redeem this. Some of those things just I don't know, like, it's
That with
pretentious.
the Hulk Hogan WrestleMania 9 eyes and the smoking. I mean, I hate it. I just thought it looked like crap, and it's just too much, and at the end of the day, it's like, I think that's a perfect example. It's like Seth is gearing up for a fight. He wants revenge, all that stuff. Let me put it in my
Right.
contacts first and my
Blast.
dry ice in my vest. It's like, ugh, you know?
Anyway,
Yeah.
still nothing is ever gonna touch Brodus Clay coming out with all the little old ladies dancing, all of his mamas dancing on the stage with him. That for me will never be topped, so.
Yeah, yeah. What did you think, Jason, about, the entrances? Another one I'll mention that a couple that I liked, um, Stephanie Vaquer, just the flowers. I thought that was
Simple.
really neat. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
cool. The ridiculously long train on, Trick Williams, I thought
That
that was
was cool.
fun.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Huh,
d Nia Jax and Lash Legend dressed as Demolition, I thought was
congratulations.
really neat. That was cool. But some of the other ones were just way too much.
I think if it fits a character, the likes of Trick Williams with the long train on the jacket, that was perfect because it's
Yeah.
very him and stuff. And the Stephanie Vaquer one was cool because it was simple and it kind of suits her character. She's quite humble and quiet. And the Danhausen one was superb because it's
Yes.
ridiculous and
Yes.
Yeah.
he's ridiculous and it fits perfectly. So for the likes of him, whereas if other people do things like that, it's pretentious and it's too much. And but I got such joy out of his whole segment
I
and
did.
his entrance. And I don't know if you want to talk about that one briefly, but
Yeah, why not? Yeah, and we can also talk about Cena overall as a host. I thought he was fine. I mean, about what you would expect. I didn't think he hurt the show at all and did inject some star power. And it's incredible, like, what Danhausen has become in WWE. I mean, he might get more TV time than almost anybody, in the company. I mean, he is all over their social media, and that spot with John Cena in the right before the main event, and crazier that almost universally people seem to like it. I mean, as ridiculous as it was, people, they really have something in Danhausen.
I mean, we were genuinely laughing and not laughing at it, but, like, really, really laughing. I mean, it's very rare, like, I talk to people about it, comedy and wrestling is usually pretty bad. It just is.
Yeah.
I was genuinely, like, really truly laughing out loud when he did the first of all, just carrying The Miz from the ring like he was dead. I mean, and then the thing that he does where it's just the goofy little Roman candle goes off, and then he, like, scurries under the ring in full view of everybody. It's just really, really funny stuff and really well done, and just, anybody that doesn't people that complain about stuff like that, it's just you got look, this is me saying this. I'm the wrestling purist. You gotta be able to have fun sometimes with this stuff.
I was happy to see The Miz get that spot because otherwise he would have been off the
Yes.
show, and Kit Wilson. I mean, like, I was really excited to see that. Like, and that in some ways, that is the best possible spot that Kit Wilson could have been in, even more than having a match at WrestleMania, is just kind of like the comedy segment. And that they thought of him means that, like, yeah,
Mhm.
that character has become something, share the ring with those names. So good for him. Let's kind of jump around 2 nights. Let's get back to night one. Kicks off with on ESPN with the first hour free, and that says a lot about how they want to kick off the show and what it is that they want people to see. I had no problem with the 6 man opener. I thought IShow Speed was a lot of fun. I thought he looked really good. I think there are wrestlers that can learn from him in terms of like facials. He emotes so much. I thought it made it really fun. I think he hit that splash to perfection. And as an opener, I think it served its purpose.
He was in great shape too. He looked
Yeah.
great. And that always goes a long way, see Jelly Roll, I mean, like, when somebody looks like they could at least hang with these guys, it helps a lot. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. What did you
Yeah,
think, Jason?
it was fine, it was a fine opener, it was nothing, it's completely forgettable and will be forgotten about in another month, and no one will think
Yeah.
of it. In terms of unnecessary entrances, LA Knight just driving the car up and getting out, and it's like, "We've seen this 100 times, why are we doing this still?" But a
Yeah.
fine match, there's nothing wrong, everybody worked hard, and again, I was impressed by Speed, I think he did really well. Logan Paul continues to be an excellent villain in everything he does, and turning on Speed and blaming him for what happened in the match and all, it was good stuff.
Yeah, yeah. The, Drew McIntyre, Jacob Fatu match, I think I liked this less than other people liked it, 'cause it to me, it was on, the low end of what these kind of WWE matches are. Well, one little thing, and this is sort of, like, nitpicky, but I hate unsanctioned matches, It's unsanctioned except that it's, like, on ESPN and,
Right.
there are ads, all over it and
Ring entrances.
elaborate entrances, like, just call it a no DQ match, call it a street fight, call it whatever the hell you want, but drop the unsanctioned thing. But because of that, another callback to Austin and Brett at WrestleMania 13. To me, that's what that kind of match should look like, which isn't about, what tools can I retrieve from under the ring, but it's about like intensity and take the fight all over the place and grab whatever is around you, whether it is a ring bell or it is a beer from a fan, that kind of thing. That's the way to do this match, which is just sort of unhinged versus the very choreographed, the kendo sticks under the ring or the toolbox. It's just hilarious when you have a wrench, a heavy steel wrench in your hand, and think about, like, the person you've most been mad at in your life, and you're gonna get in a fight, and you've got a wrench in your hand. Are you gonna hit them in the soft, squishy part of their their stomach or gouge their forehead with it? I mean, it's just so stupid. And there was a
Well,
fair
that's
amount.
wrestling stuff, though. I mean, that's
Yeah,
just
so don't do it,
right.
So, I mean, the other extreme is the way AEW does it, which is just kinda gross. But I think, like,
Like, why would Triple H hold the sledgehammer all the way at
Yes,
the end
yeah.
instead of taking a big wide swing and trying to
The
take
answer is
someone's head
don't
off?
use a
Right.
sledgehammer, right, And something like a beer in the face where it splashes everywhere, I think you get more out of that, right? And, so I didn't like, I didn't love it was well executed for what it was. I didn't love it. It was kind of the cookie cutter WWE hardcore match, and given that there was a fair amount of, like, blood and stuff throughout the card on both nights, surprised that there wasn't any of was there any blood here? Am I forgetting?
No, there
Oh,
wasn't.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It was kind of a letdown because they had built up expectations, and it really didn't feel like anything particularly brutal or violent or over the top. It didn't, and I guess they set themselves up for disappointment because I don't know if you noticed this, but the referee had latex gloves on before the match started. So we were going, "Oh
Why?
my
It's
god."
unsanctioned. He didn't even need to be
Right?
there.
But we were all going, "This is gonna be bad, my god," and nothing really like that happened, and I understand the way why, because they were saving it for the main event, but, it was a letdown, no question.
Yeah, don't paint
Um,
yourself into a corner.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So what comes after this? With this, it was, Becky and,
The women's tag match.
AJ. Oh, the women's tag match, yeah, and to me, one of the highlights of night one, I thought the Paige return was really well done. That's the kind of thing you want at WrestleMania. It reminds me of, like, the Hardys back in 2017 where, um, and I think they could have gotten more moments like this if they had planned ahead more. I mean, imagine if this was AJ's first singles match or a lot of stuff that by the time WrestleMania came around, I mean, we'd seen Jelly Roll for the millionth time. Nothing felt special. Paige was a legit surprise, a face we haven't seen in WWE in a long time. Like with AJ, it sort of like romanticizes how special she was to begin with. Like she's some kind of legendary figure. But she looked good. I thought. Amazing that she's still pretty young. She's like 31, 32, something like that. for as long as she's been around. And yeah, it injected like a WrestleMania moment into a match that otherwise would have been nothing.
No, it's I think this was a moment people were waiting for, with all due respect to her AEW run, no one really wanted to see Saraya in AEW.
Yeah.
They wanted Age in WWE, and so they got that moment, and she looked great in the ring. Like, I thought she was crisp, she was smooth in everything she was doing, and so it's a big moment, and you said more of those are what WrestleMania should be about, as opposed to endless commercials and celebrity appearances, and
Yeah, 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 and I agree. She looked really good. I mean, like a confident, smooth, looked like sort of authoritative in the ring. She knew what she was doing. So, um, that's really good. Next match, women's match, Becky and AJ. I mean, I, I know that it was below expectations. It was basically maybe even a little better than expectations in that it wasn't terrible. It was fine. A lot of it was. Jessica Carr was kind of the star of the match, and clearly they're building toward something with her and Becky, which I'm fine with. I think that's like a fun idea and something that they haven't done too much. The ref, becoming a wrestler. I don't have a lot to say about this other than it was just kind of there, and I think with some better planning, this could have felt more special than it did. But like we've said, by the time this match got in the ring AJ's just another wrestler in the company.
Yeah. They did the Ric Flair, Tommy Young spot with Becky Lynch and Jessica Carr where they're pushing each other back and forth and all that. Yeah, I did think that was cool. It's probably the most memorable thing about it, like you said. I mean, I really just echo what you said there. I mean, there was a lot of great stuff that was happening in the women's division on these 2 nights. There were good matches, title changes. This was like the bottom ranked of all of them. This was probably the least compelling women's match of the entire 2-night affair. No probably about it, definitely, to me.
yeah, and it wasn't bad. It wasn't a bad match.
No.
Both women did fine. They worked okay. It was just the build up to it was a bit
Yeah.
meh, and just the match itself was just forgettable. Which I don't know. Like we can talk about this later on, but maybe this ties into maybe WrestleMania could be one night, and maybe we could trim some of these matches off this. And but that's a whole other
They
discussion.
won't do it, but at least but you can see how it would work,
Right.
creatively. It would be better creatively, but they're not gonna do it for other reasons.
Yeah. I believe, Seth and Gunther is next, or am I forgetting a match?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it.
Got it.
Again, kind of what we expected, which is good because we expected a good match and we got a good match. Probably the best thing on night one. Like some of these other matches, I think it was hurt from the storyline not being really strong. I mean, there just wasn't a whole lot to sink your teeth into, but both guys delivered, a level of athleticism and intensity that you didn't see elsewhere, at least in night one. I mean, you're talking maybe the two best male workers in the company having a match. You just wish that there was more of a backstory there.
Yeah, they pulled it out just because they're both really good. There wasn't a whole lot of rhyme or reason to having the match, but I think what we saw is in the end, the real reason for that match was to start to set up the whole Braun Breaker, Seth Rollins thing. That's too bad for Gunther because it just sort of felt like he was sort of like an accessory to that.
Well, he got the
But
win.
he got the win, but again, that it's being used as a way to so it's interesting. It helps to build the Breaker and Rollins feud coming out of this, and it also keeps Gunther strong and makes sure that he doesn't have 2 back-to-back WrestleMania losses, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
I can't help but think that coming off, retiring Cena, retiring AJ Styles, that Gunther should have won the Royal Rumble and went on to face Cody at WrestleMania. I think that would have been the thing to do there because it just felt like a waste of both guys. And I know there was injuries involved and the Braun Breaker not being able to compete against Seth and stuff was a part of this as well. But it just felt like just both guys were kind of tucked away on the card and they did a great, great thing with what they had, but felt like a bit of a waste for both.
Yeah, I mean, especially given how much I mean, they had Gunther and John Cena's career,
It was set to go.
after that, I think we all assumed, well, this guy's gonna have a real prime spot on the WrestleMania card, and he didn't, and there was I think you're touching on it, Jason, there was room for him. I mean, you absolutely could have done Cody versus Gunther with some build, and Gunther winning the title, and I think that would have been perfectly satisfactory night one main event. I'll try to move more quickly through night two, but opening match of night two was one of the most anticipated matches, and I think it delivered even though it was short. Brock and Obafemi, you don't put somebody over much stronger than that. I mean, having him win in 4 minutes with his finish just once, and him being laid out there for 30 seconds, and kinda sorta no selling the F5. I mean, at least not completely selling it. But clearly big things in store for Oba, who I think coming out of this, everybody was thinking is gonna be the main event of WrestleMania, next year. You know, him and Roman or whoever it is becomes one of the dream matches, and Roman even talking about it at, the post show. And then obviously the big headline coming out of this was the apparent retirement of Brock Lesnar. Brian, your thoughts on Oba's, performance and the prospect of this maybe being Brock Lesnar's last match?
Yeah, this was another thing that made night 2 head and shoulders the better night. It just started in this way, and it was good they did it this way. I never cease to be amazed by people who complain about a match like this being too short. It's just like, do you not get this? Do you not get how this works? Not every match needs to be some 40-minute back and forth thing. I mean, this was I didn't even think they were gonna make it this brief. I thought it was gonna be more like a back and forth thing, but I think what they did was the smarter move, having it be like this. It just was explosive, it was decisive. Look, it's like a 1st or 2nd round knockout in a big heavyweight
Mhm.
fight. I mean, those could be very exciting when you see that, you know, especially if you didn't pay all the money to go there live. Although even in some cases when you did, I saw a big 2nd round knockout in a heavyweight title fight at the Barclays Center. Nobody was upset. We were all leaving like, "That was incredible." It was 6 minutes, but it was incredible, and it's the same kinda thing. Now you put somebody on the map, like, you know, I was talking about Obafemi and whether he should win or lose this, because you remember going in, there was some talk of like, I could totally see Brock winning this, you know, in this frustrating way, and I think it was very tenuous because I think that Obafemi really needed to win this match because as over as he was getting, he was still kind of unproven. He was still kind of like, you know, he hadn't really been in there with anybody huge yet. And if he had lost this, I really do think it would have hurt him. They would have had to get him back on track. So by winning it like this, I think he's just off to the races for sure.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
he becomes, you know, if he lost, he could still be a guy and a big guy. Him winning, he becomes one of the guys, right? I mean,
Yeah.
he is now, a top guy.
Yeah, and they could have got him back there, but why do that to yourself where you gotta, you know, take a couple of steps back and then try and build it back? That would have been really dumb to do, so I'm glad they didn't do that.
Yeah.
They need to be so careful with it going forward from here because they have started it so well with Obafemi and his push that they need to tread so carefully and treat him so well in the build up because he could absolutely, all what you said, could main event WrestleMania next year, no question.
It's tough though because a guy like that, I mean, the comparison that you keep on hearing, for good reason, is Goldberg. And the thing is, you go on, um, one of these win streaks, or not just a win streak, but kind of the dominant streak. It becomes tough to book, right? Because everybody you put him against, he's got to destroy. And how do you do that? You know, I mean, do you? I think you could be selective about who you put him in with, right? I mean, there are guys who you can feed him, who it is impressive to beat, but doesn't necessarily you know, LA Knight types, that kind of thing as a baby face, but somebody who could take the loss. It's an impressive win, but it's not something that he can't overcome. But you know, at some point, and maybe now, the expectation is that he should be in there with Cody Rhodes types and Randy Orton types. And are you going to feed all these guys to him? I mean, if he can go through Brock Lesnar in 3 minutes, what would that make a match with Cody Rhodes, you know, which they've already done. Yeah, and how they did it
That's
tonight's main
right.
event some way, but yeah, and I forget how that ended. It was like a DQ or something?
That's right, I totally forgot about that.
Which
Yeah, I don't remember how it ended either.
yeah,
Yeah.
which is good long-term storytelling if you're
I don't
gonna
think
get back
Cody
there at
pinned
some
him.
point.
Yeah,
No, I think it was a Drew McIntyre run-in or something like that. I think that's
okay.
how they got out of it. Is Brock done? I mean, lot of I mean, clearly that was what we're supposed to believe. I mean, I guess the question is how much of this was a setup to a bigger storyline. You got Gunther and his favor waiting out there. You've got SummerSlam in Minnesota. There's a thought that maybe that was the plan, but basically they called an audible and Brock just wants to be done, which I could believe. I don't know that anybody knows the answer to this.
It seemed
I could
very
believe it, but I don't
convincing
think
to me. Yeah.
yeah, no,
You think
I could believe he's done, but I don't think he is.
Okay, yeah. How about
it's
you, Brian?
it's I think that he was committed to that because he's not a guy that really often gets emotional
Yeah.
or emotes in that way, and he was getting very emotional, so it leads me to think that at least in his head right at this moment, this is it. Although, like you said, maybe the Gunther's favor is I want Brock to come out of retirement for one last match with me. That could be the favor.
I
I don't know. And it was so weird how you saw that TMZ video or something where Heyman is like vehemently denying that Brock Lesnar is retired. Did you see that? Where he was
I
just like,
didn't.
yeah. So they're questioning him, and it was legit. Like a TMZ person is like, so, is this the end for Brock Lesnar? And he was saying something like, why is everybody hyping up this retirement thing? I think Brock Lesnar is gonna dominate for the next 10 to 15 more years after this. So and it was just weird to have him say that because it seems to undercut everything they just did. Just very bizarre, and maybe he's not done.
Yeah, but then on Raw, he was making it very clear that he was done, right? He
Right. Strange.
called out the production people saying how he needs to be in the forever and not the now or whatever. Who knows? I'll try to breeze more quickly. The ladder match I thought was terrific. I mean, it was gonna be that high spot, match, and they do this all the time. I think it's on the very high end of that. I mean, this is one of the best ladder matches WWE ever delivered, in terms of just great looking stunts, really packed together, so there weren't, like, a lot of lulls, in between them, a satisfying finish, and on ESPN with a lot of people watching, I think they put on a really good show.
yeah. Sorry, Brandon. Yeah, it was just they got all their spots in, they did all the stuff they needed to without being too crazy about it and without stuffing a
Yeah,
million
yeah,
in there.
not too
It
dangerous.
yeah, it was well paced apart from well, not too dangerous apart from the JD
Yeah,
McDonagh.
easy for me to say.
Not too dangerous. Yeah. It was, this is where you do a match like this, and it
Yeah.
works. The problem is doing it too often on other shows and random events and things. This is where you save it for and where it really pays off. Yeah, it was another reason why night 2 was better was this match, you know?
Yeah, and I liked that, like, there were people in this match that when they were announced, they were kinda head scratchers because they don't get a lot of TV time, seeing the JD McDonagh types and Dragon Lee, and Rusev, and I think they all came out of that feeling a lot more important. I think they all looked really good. I thought Rusev looked really good. I thought JD McDonagh was, like, maybe the MVP of the match, and then you were able to put him in that match with Finn the next night, which was kind of a featured match on an important Raw, and he was more. It had more gravitas because JD looked so good the night before. So yeah, I think that's everything you want out of this. We're really elevated everyone in it, and Penta, who is the champ, who is the star, also comes out bigger because he got to win the whole thing. What was after this? I think it was the U.S. Title match. You know, not a lot there. It was, the it was Trick's coming out party. It was all about showcasing him as a star. I think he felt like a star. I think mission accomplished.
Yeah.
Not quite a double turn, but, very much felt like a babyface coming out of it, hugging his parents at ringside, everybody going crazy. They've got another star on their hands in Triple H.
And shout out to Lil Yachty, who was the least offensive celebrity involvement of the
You're not
weekend.
wrong.
That's true.
Yeah, I thought he was fine. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. No, he was it's funny you mentioned that because he was the one I may have been scratching my head the most about of all of them, and he turned out to be the most acceptable one of all of them. Yeah, I mean, the match did what it was supposed to do. Now you got it further solidified this very interesting gradual heel turn of Sami Zayn, and it took Trick Williams to the next level. Perfect, you know?
Yeah, yeah. What was, next up after that?
Finn and
Uh
Dominic Mysterio.
yeah, again, sort of like exactly what you would, expect, no more, no less. Great entrance, by, the Demon,
Yes.
similar to Drew and, Jacob, where, it's the Slim Jim table and that kind of spot, but perfectly satisfying, what you would expect, didn't overstay its welcome. I thought it was fine.
Yeah, and, just, it was weird, I guess, having you have street fight and unsanctioned match, and so you're sitting there going like, "Well, what's the difference?" It's basically the same match with a different name, but no, it was fine, it was a it was a good use of both of those guys, I thought.
Yeah,
I came out
and
of it thinking it's really time to get Finn Balor back into a main event scene
I was
I
about to
because
say
agree,
that, yeah, yeah.
I agree.
so talented, and he's almost been wasted in tag team matches that he barely appeared in, and get back to
Well, you know what I worry about is that he just had a world title program. You may forget this with Punk just a few months ago.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
is that kind of it for him for the year? But I do think uh, I think he's a better babyface than a heel. So happy to see him back on the babyface side of things. And all right, so you've got Cody, and yeah, I don't. I mean, who does he work with as a babyface? I don't know. You got two babyface world champions, so
Roman Reigns. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I guess Roman isn't exactly a babyface. But yeah, I could see that. And then, again, we talked about the main event, so I think it's pretty much it. Anything else that we're missing?
Rhea
Jade
Ripley.
Cargill and Rhea
Oh, I'm
Ripley.
sorry. Yes, of course. Yeah. I mean, to me, like, the most pleasant surprise of the weekend, one of the matches that um, dreading might be overstating things, but I did not at all have high hopes for this one. Probably the best women's match of the weekend, right? I mean, I think, and Jade looked really good. I mean, it's
Yeah.
easy to just say, Rhea carried her, but I don't think that would be fair. I mean, I thought Jade looked great. It's the best I've seen her look.
Now that you
Yeah.
mention it, I hadn't thought of this. I think it was the best women's match of the weekend. I would have to say it's the best match that Jade Cargill has had in
Yeah,
WWE, and without perfect total recall on my part, it might have been the best match of her career. I'm not sure about that, but definitely her best match in WWE. She held her own. Um, you know, the finish kinda, like, exposed her a little bit. It got a little sloppy and weird and wonky at the end there with everybody getting involved, and then she missed that kick, but you couldn't tell if she meant to miss it or not, and it was just kinda but for Jade, it was a classic. It really was her best, and boy, I gotta say it again, Rhea Ripley, man, just is a star, an absolute star from the minute she walks out. I mean, the both of them are, but she just commands a stadium full of 50,000 people. You just can't take your eyes off her from the whole entrance, coming in the ring and everything. She just brings it. And I do think that this whole run now, putting the title on Jade and now, her having this big match at Mania, I think it's done a lot of good for her. And I'm really hopeful that, in fact, in a way, I think it kind of helps her that she now has like these two henchmen with her because it makes her look like an even bigger deal. I think she's come out of this whole thing stronger now.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I just same just to echo what you said, I was so pleasantly surprised by this because on the last episode of the podcast, I said this was the one that I was really concerned about. I thought both ladies excelled. Really, really impressed by Jade. I think she really stepped up. It's easy to say that Rhea helped her and carried her a bit, but I think Jade really did her best work in
Yes.
WWE by far, no question.
yeah, yeah. And I also think, I mean, to your point, Brian, I think we were starting to forget what a big deal Rhea was. So
Yes.
I think this was needed to kind of put her back where she needed to be. I mean, similar to kind of the concerns we have about Cody, and it wasn't that they were botching her, but I think she had been removed from the world title picture long enough, and maybe for good reason at the time because you needed to get other women up and running, and she didn't need it at the time. But I think it's the right time for her to come back and kind of reclaim her throne. because yeah, I mean, she's right there at the top of the WWE hierarchy, or should be with Cody, with Punk, with Roman, as a real like drawing star. So
Yeah.
happy to see her there. One thing we didn't mention about Night One, Bianca's appearance and the reveal. I mean, it was what it was. I think it's a perfect example of it would have gone over better were they to have like better will with their customers right now, because maybe this is also a segue to the Hall of Fame, but uh, uh, they want to present it as sort of like, oh, we're all just one big happy family here, and I don't know, given sort of the headspace I was at with WWE, and still am to some extent, something like that is just like, it's too much to say. It rubs me the wrong way because it's a nice moment and good for Bianca and all that. But it is the kind of thing that, I thought about this. It is the cheating husband coming home with flowers for his wife, kind of thing. That's what it felt like. It's like you don't get to have moments like this on a show like this.
Okay.
Al Castle. Al Castle booing unborn babies.
Yeah. I love how you're just like, "Yeah, and Bianca Belair came out and she's pregnant," and I'm like, "All right, yeah, whatever."
I mean, you knew it as soon as was it just me? Was I the only one that knew it as soon as she came out with
Yes.
the giant thing?
I kinda figured that too. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, yeah, so good for her, good to husband back on Raw getting a push, so,
That's right.
good for him. Real quick, not a lot to say about, Raw. They moved some people up. You got Sol Ruca, who looked really good. You got Ethan Page.
Even Page, yeah.
The Street Profits are back. Jacob is in, a world title program with Roman. How are we feeling about kind of the WWE reset?
I think it'll be fresher. I do. I think, the coming months, we will see just what you opened the show with, talking about younger people coming through, people in their 20s and 30s. I think we're going to see that. You're going to see a push of a Jacob Fatu. Great to see Ethan Page, and I am such a fan of Sol Ruca. I think she is going to add so much to the
Mhm.
women's division of WWE. So I'm excited to see that and just to see what kind of fresh matchups that they come up with. And I think they stand to do something good in the next few months where they can kind of get back maybe a wee bit more of that goodwill and say, okay, look, our celebrity season's over. We're just going to focus on the wrestling now. If they do that, if they don't, then I don't know what we're going to do.
Yeah, yeah. Brian, anything on Raw?
It actually felt like the Raw after Mania. There's some years where it doesn't, and I'm not saying it's the greatest Raw after Mania, I don't of all time or whatever, but, I don't know if anything tops Goldberg coming out on that night after,
Yeah, I remember that. Seattle.
especially back when we still had all of our innocent high hopes for all that. That was a great, Raw after Mania, but I thought this was a good show, like, they had the call-ups from NXT that people have been waiting for. They had, like we're saying, the whole, resetting with Jacob Fatu, who's coming off this big win, so it kinda makes sense. Yeah, I mean, it was a solid show.
Yeah. The Hall of Fame, real quick, thoughts on it. It was fine. I didn't love Stephanie's speech. I mean, I
No,
think it was 35 minutes before she started her speech,
right.
and that's
It was an
been a
hour,
real
the whole
problem.
thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a real problem with the Hall of Fame, especially since Triple H and the Undertaker have really gotten their hands on it. Is it's become so self indulgent,
Yeah.
and to have, God bless them, but 4 different McMahons, or McMahon Helmsleys, whatever they are, Levesques, talk before Stephanie. I
And
mean,
the video package was about 10
yeah,
minutes
yeah.
long.
I thought there were parts of it that I thought were really genuine, and night I liked hearing Stephanie talk about having dinner with Andre. That was sort of sweet, that kind of thing, or coming home from school and Ric Flair's in your living room. I like stuff like that. When it became an ad for WWE written by a PR person, and you've got the cancer kid in the audience, all that stuff was just like, ugh.
Cheesy.
I
Yep.
yeah, yeah. I mean, reminded me a little bit of not to get political here, but the State of the Union address, where it's just sort of like all these, I think there's a term for it, inspiration porn, right? I mean, there was a lot of that. I would have rather just Stephanie. When she's talking about falling in love with Hunter, I thought that was nice, that kind of stuff. I hated the heel
I just
promo at
fast
the end
forwarded
of it.
through it.
Oh,
I
just
couldn't do it.
awful, in part because it rang a little bit too true, you know?
Yeah. That look,
Um,
that's that's how a lot of us knew the real Stephanie. I'm sorry, all those years ago. I'll be the one to say it. Maybe she's changed a lot. I hope she has. I've heard she has, but that was her. I'm sorry. That was her back then.
and I think she knows that a little bit, and that's why, like, the things that she was saying, it was a little tongue in cheek, but I don't know. I think there's, like, a lot of, a subtext there, and whatever, it was really, 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 really long.
It's yeah, I mean, it is a bit crazy to give her a whole hour. It just feels so, like you said, self-serving, and, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth because it's almost like if you look at the big picture, it's like, okay, The Undertaker's here. He surprises Stephanie McMahon in the front row. You're going in the Hall of Fame. Oh my god, she's crying. I can't be me? Oh, you're doing this for
Yeah.
me? Okay, that's great. Now I'm gonna do a 1-hour induction where I have a video and my whole family speaks and I speak and I give a heel promo. It just feels so ridiculous, and then, God help me, Sid's family, could you have
Yeah.
brought them on the friggin' stage? You have that woman talk and her family and the videos go for an hour, and then you go, "Oh, here's, Sid's family sitting in the audience," and the
Yes.
son, God
Yeah.
bless him, looks like he wanted to burn the place down, and I don't blame the kid. And I can understand why. Couldn't you have allocated the time? And I know that Bad News Brown's family was a lot more gracious about it. They said they didn't mind, and they didn't seem like they did, but I feel like it just seems so unfair and so, uh transparently elitist when you do that, and then everyone else is like, "Okay, you guys, you get X amount of minutes and blah, 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 blah." It gets to the point when this is not the first year. The Hall of Fame now, between that and the midnight start and all that, it gets to the point where I really genuinely tap out at a certain point and I just stop
I
watching, and
watched it the next day, yeah.
I should be the target audience for this damn thing. By the time it got to the AJ Styles, I was just like, "All right, I get it. AJ Styles, good for him, click." Like, I didn't need to see the whole thing,
There was
it should
nothing to see because,
yeah,
with all due respect to AJ, it was just nothing.
Very
yeah,
bland,
Yeah. Yeah.
very
It was
bland. Although these guys,
yeah,
they
that
were
was great.
fine. They were
I
real
love
good.
that.
I've
that was
got
good
my
stuff.
I'll
I like
see
how,
you, except for this guy wasn't
but
there.
they shouted him out. Wasn't that nice how they mentioned
Yes, that
him?
was good. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
And
I
they
I mean, that was the
mentioned
best thing of the night. Relatively brief, get to see the Warlord and Haku
uh-huh.
and Arn. That was all real cool. I wish it was more of that,
And
which it
Axe
was once
even,
upon a time.
Bill Eadie gave a nod to kind of the earlier phases of his career. Even
Mhm.
he mentioned being the Masked Superstar, and I forget who he said who gave him that gimmick, and he even talked about getting broken into
One of
the
the
business.
Mongols, didn't he, I think?
Part of the Mongols, he was
Yeah.
originally part of the Mongols. He talked about that, I thought it was pretty neat, and, yeah, that was the one, like, for me, at my age and when I was a fan and all that, that was the one I was most excited to see was him
Yeah, more
was
of that.
them,
Yeah.
Demolition, yeah.
I am, reluctant to go down this, but, one other thing over the weekend that I think it's worth bringing up, this issue, this dust up between CM Punk and a fan, who he knocked, and not just that, but just kind of a lot of conversation coming out over the weekend about really aggressive fans, a lack of security, and kind of, fan etiquette. And I think another part of the story, and this ties back to earlier conversation, the idea that maybe this is kind of the byproduct of these meet and greets where it's $300 for an autograph, $500 for an autograph and a quick picture, and so those opportunities, which were free for years and years, I used to go to these, and there were the long lines to meet the stars, but you weren't paying extra. You just had to, wait on the line. But now the idea is, well, unless you're willing to spend $300 for a
Yeah,
selfie with Randy Orton, you could try to grab him in a hotel, which is no excuse for this behavior that gets past just being a fan. But clearly there's like an issue here, your thoughts on some of that, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, I will say it's a nuanced thing. I do think that Drew McIntyre was one of the people that responded. There were a lot of different responses. And I thought tying into that whole paying for autographs thing, he did not come off as well as I think he thought
I
he
agree.
came off,
Yeah.
because what he basically said was, "Thank you to all the people who paid all that money to get my autographs, and everybody else just leave me alone." I mean, it could very well be read as, "You can only get near me if you pay money." And I know maybe he didn't mean it to come off that way, but it came off kind of entitled. So what I wanna say is, yes, absolutely. A lot of these fans are nuts, and a lot of them are very cynically also trying to get these autographs that they could put it on eBay and make a fortune.
Yeah, that's the worst.
I can understand how wrestlers can feel taken advantage of. They definitely don't understand boundaries. Booker T was talking about a guy in the bathroom trying to film him in the bathroom. I mean, these people, they need to understand how to act, how to carry themselves. However, on the flip side, this is also a security issue because you can't expect people to always act the right way. That's why you have security there.
Right.
Otherwise, Taylor Swift would walk through an airport all by herself. And I know I name dropped her twice in one podcast, but these people don't do these things. Rihanna, Beyonce, they don't just walk around in public with nobody. And that's not the wrestler's fault. There should have been more done. What I'll also say though is, because especially with the Punk thing and slapping the phone out of the guy's hand, I do think it was a little bit too far for him to be trying to take pictures of them while they were, having this moment. But here's the thing. They're public figures
Yep.
in a public place, and there is no expectation of privacy in that scenario. You're a very famous person out in the open with a lot of people around you. You need to also have a realistic expectation of what that is like. And I feel like I'm in the minority on this sometimes. And I don't want these people to get mobbed and take advantage of. But sometimes I feel like there is an overabundance of kind of entitlement here where, guess what? These are the people who feed you. These are the people
Yeah.
who make it possible for you to live your lifestyle that you live. And you need to, maybe there should be a little more humility here, like a little happy medium where you don't act like you're Marie Antoinette. You know what I mean? And they are the peasants outside of the whatever Bastille or whatever it was. Like you have to understand the optics of that too. These are like the poor peasantry that are trying to get close to you, and you're getting furious that they would dare to be in your sphere. I mean, there is a certain amount. Somebody wrote something online. Oh, these wrestlers don't owe you anything, not even their time. And I'm kind of going, you know what? They kind of do. They kind of do owe these people a lot.
And
Uh,
it's why they got into this to begin with. I mean, I think
right,
that, they wanted to be famous, right?
right.
And again, none of that is, an excuse for bad behavior, by fans. And there are lines like, bathrooms, things like that, that you shouldn't cross, clearly.
Right.
But if the idea that Bailey and AJ were having like a real personal moment, like, I'm
In the
sorry,
lobby of a
yeah,
hotel.
you don't get to have those,
No.
in public, like, you're gonna have to go into a room and do that. You have to understand that, like, there are people who traveled from all over the world to see you, and I'm in, because I've been to, some manias in recent years, I'm on, like, these Facebook groups for people that travel to them, and I saw weeks ahead of time, one question that kept on coming up was, I can't afford, these meet and greets. Are there any opportunities to just, run into a wrestler, meet them somewhere, and get a photo, that kind of thing? And I do think that there is going to be an increased demand on those kind of moments, because you can't get them otherwise. I mean,
Right.
and again, it speaks to WWE monetizing everything. And I saw in one of those groups, on Friday, somebody post a dozen pictures that they took at these meet and greets with everybody, Rhea, Randy, and I couldn't imagine what that cost, this thousands of dollars for maybe in total, 5 to 10 minutes with all these, wrestlers. it's crazy. Yeah, I do think, I didn't see WrestleMania live on Saturday because I took my kid to a freestyle wrestling event in Philadelphia, Real American Freestyle, and they probably got like 5, 7,000 people. But the people there are huge fans of freestyle wrestling, and these are guys who I think a lot of them have day jobs, and they're only famous for the people who are in that building and like really follow freestyle wrestling, Olympic wrestling, collegiate wrestling. So my kid is like bug-eyed meeting a lot of these people, and they're super gracious because I don't think they get that all the time, and you sort of like realize for a moment, like, yeah, that's what this is supposed to be. And I get when you get to the level of a CM Punk or Drew McIntyre, it could be a bit much, right? I mean, like the novelty is
I
worn off of
understand.
somebody asking you for a picture and an autograph. But I do think the best of them, John Cena comes up a lot. It's one of those guys who like you gotta stop and remind and have some empathy and remind
Yes.
yourself that like, this is a guy who works at Dunkin' Donuts all year and scraped up his money or is going into ridiculous credit card debt for this weekend. And the most exciting thing that's gonna happen to him, maybe all year, is that he gets this picture with you.
Yeah, and it's different as well. I mean, being harassed and being stalked are not the same as being, bothered
Right.
by someone in a
Yeah,
hotel lobby or an airport. We've heard instances of, particularly with, a lot of the women wrestlers who have experienced stalking or who have been groped at autograph signings and stuff. And we heard about it
terrible,
over the
yeah.
Alina Black and stuff.
Yeah.
Those are completely different to what we're talking about here, which is, I'm hanging out in a public place and the
Or
public.
those autograph guys are terrible though too. I put them in
Oh,
that
yeah.
category, where to them it's just the cynical
Yeah,
business. That's
yeah.
different from the person that just
They need to
genuinely
just be
wants to.
rejected. I've
Right.
heard some people, I think Drew is one of them, and I totally, am with him this, he will only sign an autograph if he can personalize it, for you.
Yes,
So
I
so
even
he'll
do the
he'll
same thing with my books, and that's
yeah.
that's far removed from Drew McIntyre. I have to personalize everything because these people are just. And I
Yeah.
go to the sometimes I go to them, "Well, unless you're gonna give me part of what you're gonna make for selling that book, I'm gonna personalize it," you know?
Yeah, I went to, a New York Comic Con, last year with my kid who is, like, an aspiring comic artist and is just crazy about these artists. I mean, for him, it's like meeting, like, the biggest rock stars, meeting a gym lead or somebody, like that, and, they were so cool with him, all of them, because he was there to meet them. He was a fan, and he's talking to them about their comics and their art, and why did you draw this, that way? And the other people who were there literally pulling wagons filled with comics, stacked mile high, and then they just put them all in front of them, and it's just kind of the assembly line of sign, sign, sign. So they'll all go on eBay or whatever, and
Right.
and that's just kind of gross. And I don't know. That should be like a whole separate event. Those people should be dealt with separately.
I just wish I understand it's very like you said, it's tiring because it must happen to them a million times. You also have to remember that for each individual person that does that, it's the only time. They don't they're
Yeah.
not thinking, "I'm the millionth person that has tried to do this." And so I think there has to be a little more compassion there because sometimes they do come off bad and you get this attitude of like, this person is acting like they're like royalty or something, like, "You can't come near me and you can't do this and you can't do that." And I think there needs to be a little more humility in these situations, and I think that that lack of humility is kind of a newish trend with some of these people. Like, I do think there was at least more of an effort made in past years to try to be more gracious as a celebrity in general with the people who basically pay your salary and to be a little more. Look, like I said to somebody else, when I was a kid, I remember a time when it was unthinkable that you would even charge anybody for an autograph under any circumstances. It was like
Yeah.
considered the tackiest, most gauche thing you could do, with the idea being, and I've even heard celebrities say this, that they would be honored that anybody even wants their autograph.
Right.
It is an honor, but now it's just turned into this cynical business and, like it's a nuanced and messy issue. We could talk about it for hours.
Yeah, of all the gross kind of, money grabbing, things that WWE is up to, I think these meet and greets might be the grossest. Because yeah, it's this thing that should be kind of sweet and sentimental, a fan meeting his hero, and you're putting a $500 price tag on it, and these fans are willing to pay it. Of all the things that I question why fans do this, I don't want to begrudge somebody who you spend the money however you want to, but I really wish a message would be sent to WWE that like you shouldn't be doing this, you know,
Right.
and especially and this is the problem is you can get that autograph and that selfie for free if you find these guys in the right spot. And you know maybe one of the unintended consequences is that they get super aggressive and some of it is just absolutely out of line. There's something that can be done about this. One is better security. One
Yep.
is stop
Number
these
one.
insane prices for meet and greets. And then maybe things return to and there's also just a reality that like sorry, this is the price of being famous. All right, guys. I think we've covered everything over a very newsy weekend. Thank you so much. Before we get here, Brian, anything you want to talk about?
Well, I mean, as always, the book Irresistible Force: The Life and Times of Gorilla Monsoon. I do have signed copies. If people would like to buy one of those, they could reach out to me on either on social media or at Brian R. Solomon at yahoo.com. And check out my podcast, Shut Up and Wrestle with Brian R. Solomon. It's an old school wrestling podcast. I'm going to have Jerry Briscoe on there soon to talk about his brother Jack, and got a lot of other stuff happening. So shut up and wrestle.
Excellent. And Jason, working hard on the next issue, which is our Supercards issue, right? And I believe we're going to have WrestleMania covered. And
That's me. I'm
uh,
doing the WrestleMania bit
Yeah.
in there. Yeah,
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 and
we
you
got
got
WrestleMania. We've got
I
TNA
did.
Rebellion in there. We've got AEW Revolution in there, and lots of good stuff coming up. So not to give too much away at this stage. So, but keep an eye out, pwi-online.com. Sign up for the PWI weekly newsletter. Check out our weekly ratings that are on there. And thank you guys for having me on this podcast twice in a row. I kind of feel like
yes.
the unofficial third man now. It's kind of like if Bob Caudle and Gordon Soley had invited Disco Inferno on to commentate in a row, it would be it's kind of what it's like.
Yes,
That's
yes.
you're being very unfair to yourself, but you know, you could be our
Third
third
man
member
was Hulk
anytime.
Hogan.
I'm
Yes.
thinking of you more as like a Steve Mongo McMichael on Nitro,
There you
you
go.
know?
I'll take that. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I'll take
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Next time we get together, we're to talk the Hulk Hogan documentary, which we certainly heard a lot about over the weekend, but I have not seen yet. So eager to talk about that. All right, guys. Thank you so much. We'll do it again soon.